be a profession, both hands are treacherous, I'm ambidextrous. You can't outgrind or outshine me with a fancy necklace. My aura can't be messed with, I'm cocking bullies, dropping bullies, rocking hoodies, popping woolies, ride on the bench, you reckless. Got trust funds for my loved ones, my family precious, my cards barking more than Charles Bronson. This can't be death wish, death wish.
Peace, 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 family. How's everybody doing? I hope you all are having a wonderful day so far. My name is Keisha. I'm the owner of A Way of Life. I am a career and business coach using astrology. Now, I haven't done one of these videos in a while where I really talked about the job market and kind of what to expect, but I am always listening to other people speak about what's going on in the world, and I try to incorporate the astrology within that. And so I think it's important to have a discussion with the North and South node and Taurus and Scorpio. It's about resources, the economy. And then we have the Pluto and Capricorn, which is all about politics and these governmental systems. And we got a taste of that in 2020, so we can already see that the workforce has changed. And then Taurus is going to bring the change in of the money. I'm actually really surprised that that hasn't come about yet, where they've spoken about a new dollar or digital kind of money with the Uranus and Taurus energy. It's been very interesting to watch the energies play out here and how long it's been happening. But I am an investor, and so I'm always listening to intelligent people talk about the economy and inflation and super inflation and the housing market and how bad it really is, as opposed to what's being told in the media. And so I think that we're headed for a recession. I feel like we could say that we're in one, to be quite frank, but I think it's going to get worse, like back in 2020 when people were in the stores rushing around to get food because of lockdowns. Only this time it'll be because there's a food shortage. That's also Taurus in the North Node. And then we have Jupiter, which is currently in Pisces right now. And Jupiter is about, our connections and relationships with the other countries and the things that we do or no longer have going on. And so we see what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. And I just feel like wherever that's at now, I don't know. I can't tell any lies. I haven't been watching that closely. But there's going to be some backlash from it, right? And so if we're already in inflation, you don't really have to be a rocket scientist or a mathematician to look at the data and think, okay, where the heck are they going to get money to support us if something does go down, right? And that literally is the question of Taurus in the North Node, is like my security, my emotional security. How can I take care of my family and all those kind of themes there? And I think we're heading there, family. So let's get into it. Let's break all this stuff down. Family, please like, share, subscribe. If you like the content, if you agree with what we're talking about here. I would like to try to take this time to welcome all the new subscribers. I see I got a few new subscribers here. Thank you for subscribing and allowing us to talk to you about astrology. And share the world. Share it with the world, If you find that the content is helpful, let others know. And we appreciate you in advance. Hit the notifications bell so that you can be notified every time we go live. Family, thank you. And so I will be speaking about this from a black perspective because I'm black, and it's kind of really all that I know. But I want to make myself very clear in the statement. And for those who've been here for a while, you know I've made this statement before. I really don't care how much privilege you have, any other culture that you are, or, who you are. If you don't know about money, and if you don't know how to make your money work for you, you're still going to be suffering from this recession or any kind of lack of financial wealth in your life, right? So I did some research listening to Dr. Boyce Watkins. You already know. This is stemming from a conversation that he had with somebody who I actually really quite literally look up to. And I think I posted that video on my Facebook. Maybe I'll leave the link to the video in the description box below so that you can hear what they have to say too. But I really, really liked the concept here. And on the high vibration of all these transits, this is really what Taurus wants us to work towards, right? And so as blacks, we are doing a lot better economically than we're given credit for. We spent 1.6 trillion last year. However, it may have stayed in the community maybe once or twice, right? And then it went out to other communities. So we have to do better with that. And that's, any disruption that we have around food shortages, money changes, and any economic issues or financial issues or disruptions that come in at this time really is about so that we can challenge ourselves to do better as a culture, as a people, right? And so if you take a look at the picture on the screen, I thought this was brilliant. Like, we're not strangers to this, right? We know as black people that we really struggle when it comes to economics and culture and value and understanding how that relates to wealth. So there's a black pig there. It says Black America, $1 trillion consumer buying power. So we have the money, but it's like we are spending it every which way but the right way, right? And then you can see the media's getting it, corporate America's getting it, Asian businesses getting it, banks, Hollywood. I'm raising my hand. Y'all can't see me, but I'm like, Hollywood got me by the ankles. I'm not gonna lie, because there's some stuff out that I just be like, I have to watch that movie. And then you have the photo of the black businesses over here where there's no space for them to get any of this consuming buying power. And I don't think it's that we don't have it either. I really don't think that that's the problem here. I was listening to another great person who talks about wealth from an educational perspective, and he talks about the web, the network, and he talks about how he holds up this sheet of paper and it's like a bunch of different black dots everywhere on this piece of paper, right? And he's like, that's the problem. And then he puts the web in there. So he's a masterful networker. Obviously, he has an entire networking business where he just has different networking conferences where he just has a bunch of different black people who are intelligent. They have their own businesses. They're doing things with their life. They are wealthy. There are some of us out there, believe it or not, but we are not connected, right? And so I feel like that's with this turmoil or this shakeup that we are definitely going to have, it's really about the when that I'm questioning, not the if. It's like, I hear some people saying it could be as early as August. Some people are saying late this year. Others are saying next year and even another year out. I'm surprised it's not like right now. I'm just being all the way 100 with you guys right now. From an astrological point, I don't know how we've made it this far without there being some turbulence within our finances or some kind of crisis. Not that I'm wishing that on us. Like, obviously, if there's some way we can get past all this, like, hoorah, I'm here for it. I just don't see that being the case, right? And so it's the networking piece that we really have to work on as a culture, as a people, as a society. In the great words of Malcolm X, we have to control the economics, the politics, and the culture where you live. That's another thing that we don't have. We are the only culture of people, if I am not mistaken, that does not have their own economic base. Right? You go to China, Japan, Italy, I mean, I'm just naming places, Australia, everywhere you go, they got their own flag, their own economy, their own culture, whatever, except for us here in our own country. And even though, there's questions about whether or not this was our country because we were bought over here, but the truth of the matter is, like, I don't know. So, the American Indians were already here when the white Americans came over here. So, we can have a whole conversation about that. But still, nonetheless, it's how can we control the economics, politics, and the culture where we live? This includes land, labor, resources, right? So the question becomes, since we have all this money to spend, how do we take control of the economics, politics, and culture where we live? Now, it's all about networking because, again, there are already people out there in place who are ready and willing and able to make these kinds of connections here. Right? Now, I think if I was having this conversation with somebody else, they might then say, that's going to cause a war. And you'd be right. There's no way we're going to be able to build an economic base because it's not like we never had one. It was taken from us in the first place. And the further down that rabbit hole you go, you learn that we did once before have these things. In fact, all of these systems were from us. They were just, stolen from us, taken from us, and changed in consumerism. And it was almost like as if we traded our businesses and land for consumerism and education or student loans, because it really depends on how you view that. But, nonetheless, Taurus is like, how do we get back to the way things were? Taurus literally is the energy of banks and finances. And so I always think of that movie, The Banker, or Financial, or The Black Wall Street. How do we get back to that? And the astrology is showing us with these planets in place what time it is and where our focus should be. And these themes are heavily showing us that this is where we need to be in this moment, where we need to be working towards in this moment. But first, there's going to have to be some kind of destruction because Taurus, Scorpio is on the South Node, and that's all about releasing, unlearning, and relearning everything that we've been through, the psychological conditioning, the breaking up of the family, all these kind of ideas that we've kind of cultivated as our culture, which they are not, right? And so how do we recreate the culture that we once had within our families? And then we have to manage the instrument for the wealth, which is just politics, right? I was just watching The Godfather of Harlem. This is my American gangster energy right here, right? Again, most people may or may not know, even though, a lot of the men who are in prison for being in gangs or living that life are, judged and misjudged, right? Because all those ideologies that they got and are associated with gangs really are the new politics. Literally, that entire system, selling drugs and all of that, is all about politics. If you go back and watch, I don't know if anybody has seen it, The Godfather of Harlem. Trust me, you want to go watch that show. It's going to tell you, I mean, you could literally watch any freaking gangster movie and it's going to show you the truth in the politics. But it just amazes me how it's just one of those things that every time I watch it, I'm like, damn, man, we got played. We had everything at our fingertips and literally got pushed out. And so we have to develop culture, which is the ethical, moral tools to guide the management of wealth, right? Because wealth and culture are deeply related. I talked about this in my last video that I did for the Taurus and North Node. Culture is the primary education system. I'm going to say that again. Culture is the primary education system. Culture matters more than education because it covers your values, your interests, principles, and ethics. And I've talked about this before, even with my own personal experiences when I went to college, which was never my first choice, by the way. Once I graduated high school, because I went to a vocation school, I absolutely did not want to go to college because I already had a skill. The only thing that I was missing was the know-how to do that, and that is intentionally done, by the way, because that is what you learn through your culture. And we don't have culture anymore, which is why people, even if you do go to a vocational school this day and age, in this era, we don't know what the hell we're doing. Even if you go to college, depending on what you're doing, some of those fields are set up in such a way, like doctors. I think I used this example in the last one because it really is the best one. It's very straightforward. You go to school for a certain period of time, and the rest of the time that you're in that field, that education field, then you do your residency, which is just an apprenticeship, which is the same thing as what vocational school should be, but they obviously took some things out for obvious reasons, right? They kill your joy, they kill your what's a good word to put it? Your desire and passion for what you do. You get better at something by doing it. That's how you build, the know-how to do something, or the confidence. That's the word I'm looking for. Jesus. The more you do something, the more it becomes like second nature to you. You don't really have to ask questions. It just is, right? And they kind of taking that piece away from us, right? And so we're not really being taught in any of these educational systems what that is and what that means. And that is an apprenticeship. That's what apprenticeship is all about, is to have somebody guide you in the field that you're in after having gone through or finishing that, the educational piece of it, right? And then it's all about hands-on, doing by practice, And so a lot of that stuff comes from your culture, and which you would learn through cultural perspectives and things that we had in place before, these folks came over into power, right? And that I talk about this story quite often on here. If you've been following me for a while, you've heard the story before, but I still think it's super important to mention that my grandfather came down here, Lynn, Mass, to be specific, from Memphis to get his ministry. And once he completed his ministry, him and 4 other guys bought churches one at a time, built each of those communities up until they all had their own church. That was cultural. That is the gang piece that we see within the gangster movies that nobody really understands, or they've kind of vilified, if you will, and made it seem like it's such a bad thing, but it's a hustle. I mean, let's just keep it real simple. It's how you put your skills and talents into action and build a business base or a financial source of income. It was never about working back then. And the idea is, going back to the apprenticeship piece and how that turns into culture, is because typically in a lot of these other cultures, when they do this process, that you see this, I think Chinese or Japanese, I don't know exactly which, or if what difference it is, so forgive me if I'm saying it incorrectly, but I think they're the best example of it, because then their whole entire family ends up working for that business. And whether you like it or not, right, we can see all those stories. I feel like the children are miserable, which is why America becomes really fucking attractive to people, but it's a lie, is because but that's the apprenticeship piece, and how apprenticeship becomes the culture, right? And what we're missing, and kind of what they've taken from us when it comes to building in our skills and talents, which, by the way, is also a Taurus theme, as well as Capricorn. And so, there are just a lot of misconceptions, I think, around what culture is now today. We think it is the gangbangers that we know of today, which is not what it was back then. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of some of that same shit going on. It's going on in politics too. It's shit's crazy. So I'm not even going to sit up there and try to sugarcoat it. But the general idea of where, the whole gangbanging came from was the hustle in relation to having your own business. It's like second nature, and it was about your skills and talents, and not actually selling no goddamn drugs. And so, now with all this energy that's come up, and I think even more so with this Aries and Jupiter that's coming up in May, on May 11th. We get a glimpse of it from May 11th until October, but it'll officially go into Aries the end of this year, December, and it'll be there for all next year. And I think that people are going to start to engineer these business now. We got a lot of Pisces energy still playing out here, and have been for a while, and we're getting ready to let all of that go. But something had to be sacrificed there. We had to go through this process to really knowledge of self, to get back to our roots and who we are, and really understand why it's important for us to have this cultural base. I feel like right now, people might not really see this going on because we are so blinded and distracted. Nobody even really wants to have these kinds of conversations anymore, which is really sad. But I'm telling you right now, family, you don't have to listen to me. But if you've been following me for a long time, I think I've been right about just about everything that I've said on this channel astrologically. Rest assured, the rain is coming. And I'm not trying to say that to scare anybody. I'm telling you right now, you may not see these themes just yet popping up like how I'm speaking about them. There is going to come a day when we have a recession that's bad enough to the point where there are food shortages. And then the banks are going to fall. Capricorn rules all these structures and systems, and so doesn't Taurus. And this energy is going to force us into self-employment and businesses, more of them. So you're going to have to take into account, who are you doing business with? That's what the last Libra full moon was about. Who are you in relationship with? Who are you trying to build your empire with? And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, right? And we're in the last degrees of most of these transits, meaning it's an anaretic degree, right? Even Jupiter rules your school and education, which, by the way, my grandfather only had a 2nd grade education. I kid you not, I'm not making that up. His whole entire life. And this is how you know school is really not that important. Even I learned that because I had such a great teacher by way of my grandfather and his teachings and the culture he tried to implement in the family. When I went to college, I was like, oh my God, these are all the things that my grandfather used to tell me through storytelling, by the way. He wasn't like a teacher. and again, if you've heard me on here before, I've talked about this. Sitting at the feet of the elderly is the best education in the world. For real. Like, don't get me wrong, there are going to be some fields that you need to go to school for. I'm not trying to shame anybody for doing that or anything like that. But that Gemini eclipse that we had the last few years just before we moved into this Taurus eclipse was all about self-made. That's what Gemini energy rules. This is about learning from the skills and talents, your natural skills and talents, and building off of that. Building that into an empire, taking what you already have and know. Even Taurus, to an extent, is about that as well. Taking what you know, the skills and talents that you already have, and building that into some type of empire. It just doesn't have anything to do with going to school or getting any kind of education, unless it's something short term, not necessarily the longer term things. But then there has to be that kind of apprenticeship where somebody holds you accountable and all those things there. And that's where the network comes in, and having people who came before you. And even better, if we could have companies, businesses that would pass down those opportunities from generation to generation, right? And that's what we need to get back to. Mark my words. Mark my words, family. You may not see it right now, but that's exactly where we're headed. And that's what time it is. That's what we need to be looking forward to. So these stellium of Pisces energy is really going to help us see to kind of let go of the victim mentality, the blaming everybody but yourself and not taking accountability for the way that your life ended up, right? And again, this is not about shame or blame. We're so past that right now. When you're in Jupiter energy and you're getting Jupiter blessings, that's because you've risen above and you're seeing now from a broader perspective. You're seeing the bigger picture now, right? And what it is that you have to do to take action to change the way that your life has been. There's still time. I don't care if you're 50 years old. You can still change your life today. You still have time to do that. Any little bit that you do that's working towards not trying to get a job or working for somebody else, and not, again, because I'm not job shaming either. So I'm not saying that to say that to do that is a bad thing. I'm just saying that should not be the goal because it's not stable. It's not stable. The only thing is stable is what you build on stable ground, right? And you have to take the responsibility for building that by connecting with the people who are going to hold you accountable to that or bring the value to you to be able to build that in your life, right? That's what all that Capricorn and retrograde was about from November of last year all the way until January of this year. We had a massive retrograde season that was all about leveling up your self-worth, your values, and an upgrade of the people that you choose to connect with, right? And I think we got some hard lessons to come for those who don't really see it or believe it or don't want to, but the time is now, family. I hope you hear this message well. And to the people out there who are already on the journey, kudos to you. I love and appreciate every single one of y'all. I hope you found this information helpful. Peace.